Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my 5th update for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project pan. This is an eyeshadow centric project pan that I've been working on since March of this year for this specific round. However, this is my 3rd year of working on Pan Those Eyeshadows, and I mean, if you do it for 3 years, I guess it's an indicator that it's an absolute love of mine. This is one of my favorite project pans to work on because I get to play with fun randomized eyeshadows from my collection. This is a project that was heavily inspired by my friend Alexi, who did her own version of Pan Those Eyeshadows, and she's the one who spearheaded this entire binge-worthy kind of series for so many panners and makeup lovers alike. I love watching others do this project just as much as I love doing it myself. It's so much fun. So with myself, I have selected to use 5 randomized eyeshadows from my collection. Any eyeshadow in my collection is fair game, and I randomize them whenever I have hit pan on something. Wow, that was hard to get out. So whenever I have hit pan on a eyeshadow, I roll something new in so that I'm always working on 5 shades at any time. Everyone tends to do this project pan in their own way. They kind of make it fit their own makeup consumption and their own preferences and what they're hoping to achieve with this project. For me personally, my end goal really is to hit pan on as many eyeshadows as I can in my collection. However, I do have the stipulation that if I am not absolutely loving a shade, I can roll it out after 15 uses if I so choose. I have done that a handful of times this year, but some shadows I keep using beyond that usage goal because I'm determined to hit pan on them. I randomized 5 eyeshadows from my collection in the introduction of this project, and as I hit pan on shades, I roll them out and I roll something new in randomized as well. And today I do have what I would feel like is a pretty exciting update. So why don't we hop on into all of the progress that I've made over the past month. And this is the color story that I have been working with for the past month. This kind of ebbs and flows. It changes all of the time. However, there are some shades that have been in here for quite a while. This first one on the top has been in here since the very introduction of this project. So she's been hanging on. She's overstayed her welcome for several months at this point, by far. And it is that gorgeous matte red shade. It's one that I've been struggling with. If you've been keeping up with this project, you know that I have been kind of having a bit of a challenge with it, but I'm determined to hit pan on it. So it is a depotted eyeshadow from the Colourpop Yes Please palette. It's a matte true red, and I had used it a total of 18 times prior to today's update. So I had already surpassed that 15 use threshold, and I've used it an additional 4 times, bringing me up to a total of 22 uses on this shade, and I still don't have pan on it. It was kind of leading up to this point where maybe I was gonna say, I hit pan on it, but no, still no pan, unfortunately. The dip is pretty significant though. I think it must be close, like definitely for my next update, as long as I reach for it at least 5 or more times, I should be able to hit pan on it. Like I have to use it a minimum of 5 times. So I'm gonna set myself kind of like a goal. I never really do that with these videos, but I'm gonna set myself a goal to reach for it 5 times in the next month. And if I don't hit pan on it by then, that'll be 27 uses, and that could be a little bit disheartening, but we shall see. I gotta get this out of this project though. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe how long she has stayed around, but pan will come in time, I'm sure of it. And then the next shade is this gorgeous greeny gold shade. It's a dirty golden color. It's kind of like this playful neutral metallic. I feel like it works as a neutral eyeshadow, but it also kind of borderlines on that colorful, more playful, editorial kind of makeup vibe. And it's a shadow that I've absolutely loved using in this project. It comes from my melt makeup smoke sessions, and it comes from my melt makeup smoke sessions palette. Previous to today's update though, I had only reached for this eyeshadow a total of 11 times, so it wasn't that great considering I had already had it in this project for 3 months, but now after 4 months, I've reached for an additional 6 times, bringing me to a total of 17 uses, and for the most part, I do find that within that like 15 to 20 uses, that's kind of where I end up hitting pan. And I'm so happy to report that I have hit pan on it in that additional 6 uses. I don't know if I mentioned, but the shade is called Granddaddy, and it's that one right there, and you can see that there actually is a little speckle of pan showing there now. This pan is very deep and there still is a ton of shadow in here, but it does feel really good to have hit pan on it and to see this palette being more and more loved day by day. I adore this palette, so I wouldn't be upset to roll this in again anytime soon. It's such a treat to work with, and that shade in particular was great for me because although I work from home, I still don't like to wear like bold looks like the one that I'm wearing today on camera for work, because I do have to look somewhat professional even though it is from home. So this shade has been great because it still reads as a neutral. It still feels work appropriate, but it was a little bit more explorative for me and I had a lot of fun with it. And then the next shade I have here is this true matte orange. Actually, a lot of my shades, I didn't realize till like halfway through the month, I was like, all my shadows are mattes. This is a true matte orange and it comes from the e.l.f. and Jkissa To The Rescue palette. This was a collaboration limited edition palette that came out last year and I have enjoyed it, but it was a little lackluster for me. Like, it was something that I expected a little bit more from this palette, so it's been good to kind of reintroduce it back into my routine because it fell a little flat for me initially and I stopped reaching for it, and having had it in this project for the last, I think 3 months has been really good for me. So previous to today's update, I had reached for it a total of 9 times, which isn't great because I had had it in here, I think 2 months at that point. I can't really exactly recall, to be honest, but I have reached for an additional 7 times since then. So I almost like doubled my usage, bringing me to a total of 16 uses. And I'm happy to say that I have hit pan on it since then. I have a feeling, well, I know for sure, you cannot see it because it's barely visible. Let me just kind of tap it with a brush. I think when I was swatching it, I kind of like hid the pan. So there you go, it's right there. I hope you can see it still. Can you? There you go. Yeah, so 16 uses to hit pan on this. This is not a very deep pan, so if I was to roll this palette in the future, I imagine it would be about that same amount of uses depending on how I can reach for the eyeshadows. But I was able to use that kind of all over the lid, all up in the crease. I was able to use it in so many ways, and I had to kind of layer and layer and layer it because it doesn't have the impact that I would anticipate from this shadow. I'm gonna be rolling this out and I'm really excited to introduce something new in its place. The next shade is actually one that I only rolled in my last update. It is this purple shade right here. It's like a deep red based fuchsia color, I suppose. And again, it's a matte. It is from the Colourpop Pretty Much palette. I've depotted all of my Colourpop palettes, and the 2 that are currently in this project live in this little palette together. But I have only reached for it 3 times since rolling it into this project. Did I even say what the name of this shade was? It's called Cool It, and it's that one right there. So I've only reached for it 3 times. It really didn't have a lot of disruptance or usage on it previous to rolling it into this project, so I wasn't anticipating being able to hit pan on it anytime soon, but there's just a tiny little bit of usage showing on it. Nothing too significant. In 3 uses, I would not expect that at all. Today I'm wearing it kind of a little bit here just on the inner portion of my crease and a little bit on my lower lash line. I gotta use it in a way more expansive kind of way in order to actually hit pan on it. But for now, I'm just kind of easing into using it. I know it's gonna take forever to hit pan on this, and quite possibly I might just work on this until that 15 use threshold and then roll it out, but we'll evaluate at that time. I don't like to like set the precedence or set the standard that I'm gonna roll it out at 15 uses. I like to expect that I'm gonna try to hit pan on things. So yeah, that one is gonna be in here for a little while longer. I don't imagine next month I will be able to reach that 15 use goal, but we'll see. You never know. I'm super digging these like cool, well, the hot pink with the cool blue and the cool purple. I'm digging this kind of vibe, so maybe I'll kind of start exploring this kind of color story a little bit more often. But we'll see, because it all is kind of dependent on what else I roll into this project. And the last shade that I have here is one that also was rolled in last update. This is by UOMA Beauty. It comes from this gorgeous palette. This is the Black Magic Allure palette. I did receive this in PR from Look Fantastic last fall, and I'm so happy to have rolled it into this project because this is absolutely a beautiful, beautiful palette. It's so stunning, and it's really kind of my vibe, my sort of color story. I've only reached for the shade Lush, unfortunately, only 3 times, but it's a beautiful foresty kind of green color. And the reason why I've only reached for it 3 times is because it's so comparable to one of the shades that I was working on in my last update that I just rolled out from the Subculture palette. And I was just kind of feeling, as much as I love greens, I was feeling maybe a little bit burnt out by working on greens back to back. So I only reached for it 3 times, which is at least on par with the other roll-in, but it's definitely something I need to improve on. So there really isn't any sort of visible usage on it. In fact, it still looks relatively new, as does most of this palette, but don't worry. I'm gonna get back on that green train for sure very soon, and I will be rolling it out, I imagine, within only a couple of months, but I'm just kind of easing into it, you know? But yeah, so I hit pan on 2 of those shadows. These 2 right here, I've hit pan on, which means that they're gonna be rolling out of this project, and I will be rolling 2 new shades into this project pan. Before we hop into the shadows that I'm going to be rolling in, I do just want to mention that the numbers in my spreadsheet have changed. I've actually increased my number by 23 shadows, and that's because I received 2 beautiful eyeshadow palettes from ZC in PR. So I've added 23 shades into my spreadsheet, and between these 2 palettes there actually are 24 eyeshadows, but I've opted not to roll one of these in because it's a pressed glitter. You can see I've not even swatched this yet, but it's a pressed glitter in this Alice in Wonderland palette, and I just have 0 interest in working on that. I will probably play with it, but I don't really want to use that as a focus shade. That's just not something that is my vibe at all. And then this one has 16 shades right here. This is called Fireworks. This is a collaboration with the British Museum. Beautiful palettes that I haven't yet put to the test, but I have added them into my spreadsheet so that possibly I could roll them into this project. So with all that being said, why don't we just hop on into rolling something new in? I have my Pretty Random app here ready to go. I have 323 eyeshadows in my collection, and we're gonna randomize 2 numbers together. So the first one I have here is number 104. Sorry, that's probably so hard to see. And then the next one is gonna be number 171. So I'll be right back to share with you what those are. So one of those shades is actually one that I decluttered when I did my eye product declutter. It was a Colourpop Super Shock Shadow. So we're just gonna re-roll for it. It was the one number 101, but in its place, I'm gonna get 212. So I'm gonna go grab that instead. So I'm back with the palettes, but I haven't actually looked at which shades they are in their corresponding palettes. But here we have the 3 outliers, the 3 that are remaining in this project pan. I'm really hoping that we add a couple metallics into this mix, but we shall see. So the first eyeshadow was in that number, I believe 171 or 174, 171 I think. I think I was right, my initial thoughts. But in any case, it comes from my Juvia's Place The Magic Mini palette. This is a gorgeous palette that honestly really excites and inspires me. And the shade that I selected, it starts with a Z. I can't remember what it was called. Oh, it's called Zakyia or Zakyia. Oh, okay. Gorgeous shade, although I'm not sure this is really the vibe that I was hoping to go for. So it's a kind of burnt orange shade, amazing pigmentation on it. But I was hoping to get a metallic for one, and I was hoping to not be in that same realm as what I was previously in. So I had that true matte orange. This one's a little bit more of a burnt orange. It is gonna pair really well with that red, but it's not what I was hoping for, you know? But I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna give it a try. I always like to at least try, especially when it's not like a black or something that's completely redundant. So I am going to give it my best shot, play with it for the next month, and use it at least 15 times. I imagine knowing the Juvia's mattes formula is going to take me way more than 15 uses in order to hit pan on that, but I'm going to work towards that goal of trying to hit pan on it and see what happens. I'd love to see this palette looking more loved, so even if I don't end up actually just using for Zakyia right there, I'll reach into this palette for other shades for sure. Like that shade right there with that like deeper, more foresty green would be beautiful, or Yara right here. Oh, can't wait to play with it. So I'm gonna bring this into the roster, into the rotation, and just play with this palette more. And I'm not gonna focus too heavily on trying to hit pan on my new roll-in, just given the fact that I'm feeling a little bit burnt out by the orangey colors, but either way, we're gonna play around with it. And then the last roll-in comes from Melt Smoke Sessions, which is so exciting. I said I was not gonna be upset if it rolled into this project in the future, and she's coming in this project immediately. So the shade that I selected from here is called Blue Dream. I knew it was either one of these two, and I'm really excited to say that it is actually that more minty kind of color. Oh my gosh. Sorry for the obnoxious car. But it is that beautiful frosty minty color. There actually is a little bit of wear happening in it, like a tiny bit of a dip, because I do reach for that color pretty frequently. I think it's such a fun inner corner highlight, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful color all around. I don't tend to love blues. I know I look like I love blues right now, but blues are not my thing, but this kind of blue is seriously just, yeah, blue dream. It really is. So I'm excited to reach for it. I imagine it should take me probably as many, if not more, uses than Granddaddy did. However, there is a little bit of a dip, a little bit more wear, so we'll see. It should be a bit of an adventure, but yeah, I think that's gonna be really pretty with that green. It might be actually really pretty with the purple as well, so I'm gonna explore and play around with it. But that is everything for today's update. This color story is getting weird, getting interesting for sure, but getting a little bit weird, and I'm really looking forward to some metallics happening in this project, so I'm really hoping that I'll be able to roll this one out by my next update. Otherwise, I don't foresee myself being able to roll anything else out yet, but we'll see. Only time can tell, really. Let me know your thoughts on this color story, maybe some suggestions of how you would reach for it. But yeah, that is everything for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.